Welcome back to our program. I'm your host, Linda Bard, and this is TV Toastmasters. I'm a member of TV Toastmasters and also Toastmasters for Speaking Professionals. And my business, Find Your Creative Voice, is about how we communicate. And I'm also really excited to introduce a friend of mine who is a financial planner, which sounds really boring, but she is anything but. Her name is Lisa Moon Brumm, and she is the founder and CEO of My Financial Girlfriend. So we're going to get busy talking money with our girlfriend. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So financial planning, money, those are all the things that women especially sometimes get really, either they don't pay enough attention to it because they just don't know, or because it's like, oh, I don't even want to look at my checkbook or whatever. So what is your mission? I mean, you are so passionate about empowering women to understand money, to take control of their money, to not be afraid of it. Well, why are you so passionate about this?
The thing that probably makes me the most passionate is the aha moment of just being able to sit down and have really a girlfriend chat, just to be able to have a simple conversation and in a non-shameful or non-judgmental way, to be able to talk to someone and just ask them where their mindset is, what makes them either fearful or what makes them, just do the on par, just kind of a route and really just work their money as it just kind of flows through. It also flows out just as easily, right?
Right.
But I also feel this is probably the stem of it, is that women really get the short end of the stick. And, we make less money to that of men in the same positions.
Yes.
We live longer, so we have to make our money work longer. And in this day and age, I believe that it isn't rocket science, but I don't feel that our industry, the financial industry, really appeals to women. It's more about charts and graphs rather than the heart and compassion and benevolence. So I really try to make it a set a scene that allows people to be open and free to discuss. I mean, I've had clients tell me they've put their rent on a Visa card, and all the mistakes or quote unquote errors that people make. But it's a matter of being in a survival mode versus
Right.
a thriving mode. It's like we just do what we do to get by and to get to the end of the month or get to the paycheck. And nobody really gives us any strategy. And so I really try to play a game or make it playful and talk about what if games. What if scenarios, you had plenty of money in your checking account, how would things look different? What would you do? And there is an African proverb that I really enjoy. It's when you educate a man, you've educated an individual. But when you educate a woman, you're educating the whole nation. And once we have enough, or we feel that we're at a place of prosperity, then we tend to, we take care of our own, we take care of ourselves, and then we take care of our community. And so there is a difference of opinion in how money could flow through differently when I talk to women versus men.
Well, and that's a really powerful point, because women often have the caretaking, so, oh, you need shoes, my kids need shoes, so I'll go without, or whatever. But there's also that striving to, if you're a career woman who is out there and just going for everything and not paying attention, it's just kind of like gathering nuts, for the winter, and then all of a sudden you wake up and one day it's like the money that you've gathered could have been working so much harder for you.
Right.
One of the things that was really important that my uncle told my husband and I when we were newlyweds, some 36 years ago, was pay yourself first.
That's a big thing.
And why do we not think of it in that way?
I think a lot of information gets passed down either through our parents or through our school systems. And I always joke about this, but my high school money and sense class was taught by the JV softball coach who just needed something to do until 3 o'clock. And he's telling 15 and 16-year-olds how to balance our checkbook and run a budget for a household. And none of it's relevant. None of it was really meaningful, right? It didn't really touch what was going to happen to us even in the next 2 years by the time we turn 18. So it just felt like it was a gloss over. And I feel that really that we're really poorly educated in the United States when it comes to money. We all know we need it. We all try to strive to get a good job to get it, or create our own business around obtaining more money. Yet taxes and savings are never really something that's spoken about as part of the business plan. And so really it takes great effort, I feel, to find a professional advisor who's really going to sit down with you and talk about debt just as easily as they would talk about a portfolio and building an investment plan. And I really focus holistically because I think that, if somebody has the ability to look at their business plan, or look at their, how they even obtain a job. Women also tend to not ask for a higher price or negotiate as much as men would in looking and seeking out positions. And we just sell ourselves short because we really just don't have that feeling of empowerment. And that's really, I think, part of my mission of even coming up with my company. I've been doing this for 21 years as a financial advisor, and I always felt like a fish out of water, because I was the one bringing tissue boxes into the conference room when everybody else was just charts and graphs, and I was like, well, I want to hear the heart of the matter. I want to hear how it's real in their life day to day, and how we can really, just even with a few tweaks, start them on a plan. Because then once they build it, and that pay yourself first, most people think they have to have thousands of dollars.
Right.
And maybe just $50 a month starts a plan, and it now becomes part of the list of budget, rent and car insurance, and $50 to my savings, and then utilities and cell phone bill.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. So you're a no-fee planner.
Yes.
Which is, I don't know how unheard of in the industry it is. I mean, I know there are some, but that to me seems like an obstacle that is totally eliminated right off the bat.
It is.
It's just like, whoa, I can come in and have a conversation, find out, where I'm at, and I don't have to pay for, it's like, I don't have to pay for a lawyer for an hour's worth of time to talk to you.
Yeah.
When in those conversations, where are the three, I guess if you want to give us three of the big money mistakes that you see people making?
Debt is usually the biggest obstacle that somebody will even want to talk to me about, because until they've actually had a conversation with me, they think that, again, they have to have all this money all ready to go. And I can't even tell you how many times I've networked, and especially with women and women in business, is like, oh, I don't have enough, and I'm not even worth your time. And there's just that, again, there's that, self bad talk that happens, that they don't even feel that they're of value or have any worth. And I actually was teaching a workshop, and there's a woman sitting in the front row, and she was a little skeptical. I could tell that there was like, she was kind of going to challenge me a little bit. And finally she just had to blurt it out. And she said, I've got student loans, I've got credit card, I just started my business. I'm barely making 2 nickels at the end of every month. Why would you work with someone like me? And it was a challenge. And I had an iPad hooked up to the monitor, and I said, let's play a game. And I said, why don't we just say you'll never make more than $50,000 for the rest of your life, and I'm going to guess you're in your mid-30s. And she goes, yeah, I'm 36. So I plugged in 50,000, and I said, let's play, you're going to live until you're 80. And I put in, the months that would be. And I said, maybe a cost of living on average has been around 4%, historically, but let's just put in 2% and play, really super conservative. And I hit calculate, and it came up with it was 40 years at 2% was like almost $5 million. And I said, I think you've been brainwashed. I think you think that because you don't have zeros and commas yet, that you don't even have the right to talk to a financial professional. And I think it's our obligation as an industry to work with everyone who is starting a business or going to have income or even has a decent income or not. I mean, most people run to the end of the month or run up till their paycheck. I call it more month than money.
Right.
And they don't realize that there's just so many other routes or pathways that they could do to not just, get to the end and then start the cycle again. So
Good. Well, I mean, it's like, it's great that you bring the tissue, but you also kind of bring the
no nonsense
smack on the bottom too. So if there were 3 tips that you could give to help people just, get started.
Yeah.
That's really, and part of what you had said earlier when we were talking is, start where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we get hung up in this, I don't have enough money or whatever. So what are
or until I can get my debt paid, I can't do this.
Right.
So I think tip number 1 would definitely be, even if it's at a different bank than you normally bank, just start that $20 or $50, whatever is comfortable. I call it the no-brainer amount. What if you couldn't miss $20 a month, then just start sticking it into a side savings account at a checking or credit union or a bank. Make it auto post
draw,
off right off your bank account or off your paycheck. That's number 1, because it just becomes that habit. It becomes, and it's interesting because there's actually apps out there now that if you swipe your debit card and hook it up to your checking account, it'll round up automatically. So if you do $19.99, a penny goes into the side account. It's an online bank. If all that rounding up, and I had a woman who was doing it just a couple of weeks, and she came back and she was all excited because she had like $118 sitting in this side savings account just by all the swipes that she had done throughout those 2 weeks. So
okay, 2 quick more.
Yeah, two more quick. Taxes. People pay taxes. Why do you think all the commercials are saying we'll get you billions and billions of dollars back? It's because Americans don't want to have a huge tax bill come April 15th. Right. So I think that you get with your tax preparer, your CPA, they will help you calculate what's about the right amount based on all your situation and deductions. Pay the right amount, because then you have more cash flow month to month, day to day, paycheck to paycheck, and you can systematically set up some of these, pay your, a third of it can go to the debt, a third of it can go into a savings, a third of it go to spending. If, go ahead and be real with your money. If you need more money in the extra, don't just keep spending it because you want to.
And last one?
Last one would be, I think that, credit card debt is kind of a thing that happens against us. And the way to turn those tables, if you're a homeowner, you could do a home equity line, and say your credit cards are 15 or 20%. Home equity lines right now are running, 6 to 8%. So you're already paying yourself half the interest that you would have been paying.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate everybody taking control of their money.
Yes.
And I would like to invite you to come and watch us again. I will be here next month. And my thought to leave you guys with is, she believed she could, so she did. So thank you for watching, and we invite you to tune in next time.
Hello, welcome to TV Toastmasters, where the spotlight is on you. That is, if you're in this seat. TV Toastmasters is an advanced Toastmasters club where members get an opportunity to learn how to be comfortable on camera. Usually experienced speakers haven't really had a chance other than speaking to live audiences. At TV Toastmasters, you get a chance to learn what it takes behind the scenes in the control room behind the camera, managing the talent, which is often the hardest part. And if you are the talent, learning how to engage with an imaginary audience. It's a little bit challenging. Or reading off of a teleprompter. These are all really great skills if you want to do your own videos, or if you speak or you want to be a guest on a TV segment. This is a great opportunity to come hone your speaking skills at a whole different level. I'm Sophia Asghar. I'm a past president of TV Toastmasters and a member of this club for several years. And today I'm talking to you about one of my absolutely favorite topics: what's really in your food? I'm a wellness expert, and people ask me all the time, Sophia, what should I eat? And boy, the answer to that question is a really long one. But the best and the first place to start is learning what's actually in the food that you're already eating so you can make better choices from there. What I love to do is do a fact or fiction game with my audiences, and so I'm going to play that game with you. So grab a piece of paper or get ready to make mental notes. I'm going to go through my top 10 list of fact or fiction when it comes to food, and you can play along with me, and let's see how many you get right. All right, first fact, potential fact. Foods made in the United States of America are safer to eat. What do you think? Foods made in the U.S., safer to eat. I like to buy made in the USA. You may be surprised to find out that this is fiction. Surprised? Well, the regulations regarding food manufacturing in the U.S. are much less restrictive than certain areas of the world, like most of Europe, Canada, and Australia, to name a few countries. However, you've got to be careful about some countries that have lower regulations, like Taiwan or China. It's a lot less safer to eat those foods, so I would be aware of those. But isn't that surprising to know? We'll learn more about that. Potential fact number 2, there are about 1,500 to 2,000 different chemicals added to your food in the United States. What do you think? 1,500 to 2,000 chemicals. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Fact or fiction? Fiction. The truth is actually 4,000 chemicals. Wow, right? What in the world could they even be adding? Well, preservatives, coloring, and other flavor enhancers. There's a lot of different reasons that food manufacturers add chemicals to your food. And the FDA allows over 4,000 of those. That's a little bit scary. That's a little bit information behind fact number 1, which is foods made in the U.S. aren't necessarily as safe as other foods you might find if you're traveling in Europe or eating something made from Europe or Canada. All right, let's see. Fact number 3. Colorings, flavorings, and preservatives were introduced within the last 100 years. What do you think? Food additives, colorings and flavorings, preservatives, just in the last 100 years. I bet you knew I was going to say fiction. Yes, that's fiction. So additives go way, way back. Just think about early American times where foods were preserved with salt. Things were colored with natural sources like beets, that red coloring. Now we have chemicals, but it's been around longer than 100 years. We have been altering our food for a very long time. All right. Fact number 4, food fact 4. It's better to eat local. What do you think? It sounds good. It's definitely good for the local economy, but is it healthier to eat local? What do you think? Got an answer? That is a fact. With one caveat, you got to make sure that it's actually local. So if something is truly grown locally or raised locally, in the case of poultry, production of eggs or meats, and fresh fruits and vegetables, definitely local is healthier as long as it's been handled really well and as long as it's truly local. One workaround or loophole that manufacturers have found is if they transport raw ingredients from other locations and they say packaged locally or made locally, those ingredients may not really be locally sourced. So it's really important to know the backstory behind the foods that you're eating so that you can really trust that they're made locally. But the fresher it is, the closer it is to you, the better chance you're going to have really good nutrients in the fresh, especially in the fresh fruits and vegetables that don't have to travel as far. So that was a pretty easy one. How about this one? Foods labeled organic are safer to eat. Do you look for those when you're in the grocery aisle? What do you think when you see something labeled organic? Safer or not safer? Well, you might be surprised to know that that is fiction. There aren't super strong regulations about being able to put the word organic on food. What you want to look for is USDA stamp organic to know that it's really truly organic. And not all foods really need to be organic to be healthier, but that word is really thrown around a lot. Imagine this, organic water. No, really, I have actually seen that. Organic, fat-free, gluten-free water. I think they meant it as a joke. I hope so anyway. All right, let's go on to fact number 6, and let's see what you think. Grass-fed beef is lower in fat. What do you think? Grass-fed beef, lower in fat. Got an answer in your mind? That is actually a fact. So grass-fed beef is lower in overall fat and in saturated fat, and it also has the advantage of more omega-3 fatty acids. So if you can go grass-fed beef, it's leaner and better for you. Isn't that so cool? All right, let's go on to fact number 7. Pasteurization kills all the microorganisms in milk and can keep it fresh up to 9 months. What do you think? Pasteurization kills all the microorganisms in milk and keeps it safe to use or eat up to 9 months. That sounds like a long time. You might be struggling with that one. The answer is actually fact. However, ultrapasteurization, which allows for milk to last for 9 months, kills a lot of the nutrients and enzymes that are really healthy in milk. So just keep that in mind. How about homogenization? That's our next potential fact. Let's think about that. Homogenization doesn't add chemicals in milk. What do you think? Homogenization doesn't add chemicals in milk. Fact or fiction? Got to think about that one a little bit. Do you know what homogenization is? That is actually a fact. You thought I was going to trick you because I've been throwing all this information at you about chemicals. But homogenization is actually a mechanical process that breaks up the fat to make it smoother and so it doesn't separate when it's on the shelf. So that means when you pour it into your cereal or into your coffee, the person who gets the last bit doesn't get the skim. All right, let's go on to number 9. You should go for foods labeled all natural. Fact or fiction? Going all natural is a good thing. Fact or fiction? What do you think? It sure sounds good, doesn't it? But I'm going to hit you with another fiction. And the reason is that there's very little regulation on what can be labeled all natural. And food manufacturers come up with all kinds of crazy ways of making something sound really good, which isn't really good for you. So you want to be very careful about things that are all natural. In fact, on this next slide that I'll show you, don't be fooled by labels. You've got USDA organic, locally grown, free range, cage-free, all natural, grass-fed, pasture-raised, gluten-free, light, fat-free, sugar-free, no sugar added. What in the world do you believe? It's crazy. Last one, number 10. Let's see if you can get this one. Light foods are better than fat-free foods. Light foods are better than fat-free foods. What do you think? Are you wondering what in the world is the difference between a light food and a fat-free food? This one is a mixed answer. It's mostly, it could be fact or it could be fiction. It really depends on what's in the food. For instance, if you have a lot of fat-free foods have added salt, sugar, and other fats in order to make it more flavorful and more interesting. So you really don't benefit from those additives, and so you're better off with a lighter version, for instance, cottage cheese. Check the labels next time you're out shopping. Fat-free milk has more sugar than 1% or 2% milk. So you just want to be careful with that. But then light foods aren't necessarily healthy at all. Take, for instance, light yogurts, which have maybe twice as much sugar in it than an orange. It's so confusing. All right, I'm going to close with my top 3 tips for weeding out fact from fiction when it comes to choosing your foods. When you're shopping in the grocery store, the number one thing I recommend is reading the label. If you look at that label and you look at the ingredient list, and there's 100 different things, if there's anything like, once you get above 10 or more, it gets to be a little suspect. Like, why would you need that many things? That's very high processing. And usually, and then the next thing is, if there's a lot of ingredients that you don't recognize. So if you recognize the names and those individual things sound like food, then it probably is a food. But if those are long chemical names and you don't recognize what they are, I would stay away from it and use it, or find another choice. So my second tip for you in weeding out fact from fiction is to read the label. Remember the stamps of USDA organic? If it says organic, look for the label. If it says gluten-free, look for certified gluten-free. So make sure that you're really checking for the certifications that matter and that it has those stamps. Just because it says healthy choice doesn't mean that it's actually a good healthy choice for you. And then the third tip that I would give you is eat as many unprocessed raw fruits and vegetables or whole grains, things that you actually have to cook. And so if it basically is going to spoil if you leave it on the shelf, it's probably a really good food for you. So the less processed foods that you can eat, the better. And if you do eat processed foods, for instance, peanut butter is a processed food just because you ground up the peanuts. But it could be healthy peanut butter, and there's nothing wrong with that. So read your labels, enjoy good food, and thank you.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence,
confidence,
great listening skills,
poise,
great leadership skills,
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength,
A captive audience.
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people.
networking,
strength,
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job.
I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
thank you Toastmasters for everything.